Good afternoon and welcome back to Washington, Washington. It's Friday, April 14th, and I'm Marco Lunetta.
And I'm Maddie Brode. We are back to provide you with the biggest stories happening around our capital and nation. The Trump trial in New York continues to face difficulties. On Tuesday, Ohio Representative Jim Jordan was sued by the Manhattan District Attorney for interfering with the high-profile trial. This move shocked many, but was motivated by Jordan's, quote, transparent campaign to intimidate and attack Alvin Bragg. Bragg is the district attorney actively pursuing the 34 felony charges against Trump. Another purpose of the lawsuit is to block Jordan's efforts to subpoena Mark Pomerantz, a former leader in the Trump investigation. The suit claims that Jordan's effort to subpoena Pomerantz is an obstruction to the ongoing judiciary process. Also happening this week, NBC New York reports that Bragg received a threatening letter with an unknown white powder on Wednesday. This threat is just one of the hundreds Bragg has received throughout the trial.
After the expulsion of two Democratic representatives from the Tennessee state capitol, Justin Jones and Justin Pearson have since been reinstated to the state legislature by separate councils. Jones and Pearson were two black Democrats that were expelled for protesting gun violence on the Tennessee House floor just a week ago. The vote that reinstated representatives was unanimous with 36-0 votes for Jones and 7-0 for Pearson. After their reinstatements, both representatives have stated that they will continue to fight for democracy and gun reform.
It shows that we need more representatives who will stand with the people, who are willing to risk a title to be with the people, to stand with the people. And so we need bold leadership. We need to fight for our communities. You know, these young people who are demanding that we take action for common sense gun laws, we need to respond to them.
Although both representatives are able to continue their roles, their positions are interim, and they will both need to run for re-election in a special election.
The vape giant Juul will pay $462 million to 6 states and D.C. in their largest settlement ever. The company will be giving money to California, Virginia, New York, D.C., Illinois, Colorado, and Massachusetts for marketing their product to underage kids. This settlement was led by California and New York's attorney generals, who are disgusted with the actions Juul took to sell their products. Along with paying the settlement, Juul will also have to lock up their products at stores, verify the age of purchasers, and they are not allowed to use people under 35 in their marketing attempts. Many suits have been filed against the company already, and there are many more to come as Juul pays the price for their actions.
The Gang of Eight will receive access to classified documents recovered from former President Trump, President Joe Biden, and former Vice President Mike Pence's homes. According to The Hill, this comes after pressure from senators to share the documents with the group, which includes the top 4 leaders in Congress and the head Republican and Democrat from both the Senate and House Intelligence Committees. Senators Mark Warren and Marco Rubio have been vocal over what they viewed as limitations on their oversight, and pressure has mounted on the DOJ from both parties. The DOJ previously cited the 2 special counsels reviewing the matter as complicating the turnover of documents. According to Punchbowl News, the Biden administration began producing the documents last week.
President Joe Biden arrived in Ireland on Tuesday to kick off his first official visit to the country. The president is set to meet with Irish Prime Minister Leo Varadkar and other officials to discuss a range of issues including trade, security, and climate change. This historic trip has been highly anticipated as Biden has long celebrated his Irish heritage and frequently speaks of his ancestors who immigrated to the United States from Ireland. In Dublin, the president will visit the birthplace of his great-great-grandfather and attend a ceremony honoring his Irish roots. During his visit, President Joe Biden also addressed the Irish Parliament and attended a reception with members of the Irish American community.
He would also say, every time we walked out, we talk about background and heritage, he'd go, remember, Joey, the best drop of blood in you is Irish. Well, you all think I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. The fact is, I've often said the Irish are the only people in the world, in my view, who actually are nostalgic about the future. Think about it. We're nostalgic about the future. I think we all are, no matter where we live, if we have Irish blood in us.
The president's visit to Ireland is the first stop on his European tour, which will also include stops to the United Kingdom and France. Overall, President Biden's trip to Ireland is seen as a significant moment in U.S.-Irish relations and a testament to the strength of the bond between the two nations.
As U.S. lawmakers grumble over TikTok and the implications of the Restrict Act, one state seems to have made up its mind. According to AP News, Montana is one House vote away from banning TikTok in the entire state. On Friday, April 14th, Montana House representatives will conduct a final vote to ban the app. They're representing a stark example of a U.S. media landscape without the ultra-popular social media app. Despite Montana's hard stance, others have been quick to condemn TikTok while raising concerns about the broad-sweeping Restrict Act. Elon Musk, the owner of Twitter, voiced his concerns, noting that while he is good for business, he is generally opposed to banning things. Numerous organizations have called the Restrict Act a threat to a safe internet and privacy. With the Montana vote to take place Friday, other states may be soon to follow.
Controversial abortion pill rulings have caused uproar among pharmaceutical companies and lawmakers across the country this week. Mifepristone was approved by the FDA in 2000 and has since been widely used across the United States to end pregnancy in the first 10 weeks of gestation and manage miscarriages. Now, in 2023, a Texas federal judge refuted the FDA's approval and issued an injunction that would suspend the sale and approval of the drug nationwide. Meanwhile, in Washington state on Friday, another federal judge issued a separate ruling that would prohibit the FDA from pulling mifepristone from the market. These contradictory court rulings raise questions not only about the future of the abortion pill, but the FDA's power and authority to regulate drugs in general. In response to the Texas ruling, several states have begun stockpiling doses of mifepristone. Major pharmaceutical companies have expressed support for the FDA, and lawmakers on both sides of the aisle have urged the Biden administration to ignore the refutes. According to the New York Times, the Biden administration has not ignored the rulings, but rather, in an emergency application, urged the justices of the Supreme Court to stay the Texas ruling to suspend the pill. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre and President Biden have both commented on the issue.
And on the abortion pill ruling, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are it's completely out of bounds what the judge did. Thank you. Thanks, sir.
We believe that the law is on our side and we will prevail. So that I can reassure the American people that is our commitment to women, millions of women across the country, and also providers who are at the front lines, working every day to make sure that women are able to make decisions for themselves about their own body. So what we can say is we're going to continue to fight.
This is the first major abortion case to reach the Supreme Court since the ruling to eliminate constitutional protection of abortion rights in June. Americans across the country have organized protests, and pharmaceutical companies and lawmakers are already taking preparatory actions to prepare for the potential removal of the abortion pill from the market.
President Biden and his party have decided on Chicago to host the 2024 Democratic National Convention. Democrats hope to gather diverse crowds as Chicago is the heart of the Midwest. Home to some of the most crucial swing states, Governor of Illinois J.B. Pritzker commented on Biden's decision this week.
Well, he was on his way to Air Force One to get on and head to Ireland. He let me know, and then he told me that Chicago was going to be his convention city, and I told him how thrilled that we were and how we're going to put on the best convention that the Democratic Party's ever had, and it will be Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's convention. And I'm really excited not just for the city of Chicago, but for the entire Democratic Party.
The convention is set to take place from August 19th through the 22nd of next year at the United Center, as announced by the Democratic National Committee. Up next, some important government documents were leaked over Discord.
Plus, China might not be the most populated country in the world anymore. Find out which country is overtaking them after the break. More Watching Washington next.
CCSE provides numerous opportunities for students of all majors. This includes the student community, pizza and politics, the Boilers Go to DC Maymester, internships, and annual events like the Talk with Brian Lamb and the Research Conference.
The goal for the CCSE is to help students get more educated on politics, government, media in a nonpartisan fashion, and to learn how to use the C-SPAN Video Library for resources, for research of their own, to learn more about politics and obviously the government and journalism.
Find out what the Center for C-SPAN can do for you.
On Thursday, April 13th, the FBI arrested and searched the home of 21-year-old Jack Teixeira in connection with the massive leak of classified documents surrounding the Ukraine war. A half-dozen FBI agents arrested Teixeira, who was part of an intelligence wing of the Massachusetts Air National Guard. Teixeira held a low-level position, leaving many to question how one came in possession of so many sensitive documents. According to authorities, Teixeira ran a private online Discord group where dozens of young men posted sensitive intelligence briefings, maps, and papers. Attorney General Merrick Garland said the Bureau was continuing to conduct authorized law enforcement activity at the residence of Teixeira. This is a developing story. More to follow on what really led to the greatest leak in government documents in a decade.
Republican Tim Scott launched a presidential exploratory committee Wednesday, making a step toward an official White House run in 2024. Launching an exploratory committee allows the South Carolina senator to conduct polls, travel, and speak to others about formally becoming a candidate. Scott also visited Iowa, the lead-off state in the presidential nominating process this week. For the first time in U.S. history, the White House has declared a drug to be an emerging threat to the country. According to AP News, the drug in question is xylazine, which is an animal tranquilizer. It has become a threat due to its powerful combination with synthetic opioid fentanyl. Officials say it has been located in almost every state and has been linked to an increasing number of overdose deaths. The Drug Enforcement Administration says xylazine was found in 23% of fentanyl powder and 7% of fentanyl pills that were seized in 2022. The FDA approved xylazine for veterinary use in 1971, but it was never approved for human use. Experts say the drug can cause severe skin ulcers, rotting skin, which could lead to an amputation.
Since 1950, China has had the most people in the world, but that might be changing very soon. According to AP News, calculations from a variety of surveys, as well as birth and death records, have projected that India will surpass China's population sometime in the middle of April if they haven't already. However, demographers still warn that this projection shouldn't be taken as fact because the numbers are still fuzzy and can be revised. India's younger population and higher fertility rate are the two biggest reasons why they are quickly becoming the world's most populated country. Contrastingly, China has an aging population and a much lower fertility rate.
In a show of force, China's military has conducted drills near Japan amid ongoing tensions over Taiwan and other territorial disputes in the region. According to the Associated Press, the Chinese Navy and Air Force recently held joint exercises in the East China Sea, close to the disputed Senkaku Islands, which are claimed by both Japan and China. The exercises, which involve fighter jets, helicopters, and warships, were described by Chinese officials as routine and aimed at improving combat. However, Japan's Defense Minister Nobukishi criticized the drills, saying, as quoted, they were extremely regrettable, and urged China to, quote, refrain from any unilateral action that could escalate tensions in the region. The drills come amid growing concerns in Japan and the United States about China's military expansion and assertiveness in the Asian Pacific region. The situation in the region remains tense while both China and the U.S. take a tough stance on each other's military activities.
A shooting on April 10th left 5 dead and 6 injured. At a bank in downtown Louisville, a gunman shot 9 civilians and 2 police officers before being killed by police. According to CNN, the attack was live-streamed on Instagram by the alleged shooter, who was an employee at the bank. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear spoke of a friend who was killed during the shooting at a press conference.
We lost 4 children of God today, one of whom was one of my closest friends. Tommy Elliott helped me build my law career, helped me become governor, gave me advice on being a good dad. It's one of the people I talk to most in the world, and very rarely are we talking about my job.
President Biden spoke with Governor Beshear over a phone call and blames a lack of action surrounding assault weapons for the shooting, which is one of 146 shootings that have already happened this year.
The continuous mass shootings and lack of federal action have caused some citizens to act locally. Our in-studio guest this week is Diana Hoke from the Tippecanoe ACTS, whose goal is to create a safer living environment.
The full interview just ahead on Watching Washington.
Imagine a world where Olympics and Paralympics are unified as one, and where all athletes at all levels have equal opportunities to play and perform at their full potential.
Athletics has been such an influential and transformative aspect of my life. So to me, RISE is about ensuring that every person that has the desire to participate in sport has the opportunity to do so.
This organization is about recognition. We believe in recognizing excellence where it is found, especially in Paralympic sports.
RISE is about driving change in our community and beyond. We hope that through our events and initiatives, we can galvanize people for our cause and inspire them to create an ever-growing network to help achieve our mission.
It's about connecting people of various backgrounds and who truly care about creating meaningful change together.
We develop projects and hold events to bring people together at the interface of inclusivity, sports, and engineering.
Our goal is to promote the equality of all sports and to improve sports performance and accessibility.
Join us so that you can have a major contribution in creating meaningful change.
We have a special guest with us in the studio this week. Diana Hoke from Tippecanoe ACTS sat down with our very own Ellie Acra to discuss gun violence and how to get involved with their organization. Ellie?
That's right. I've got Diana Lynn Hoke with me today from Tippecanoe ACTS, a local advocacy group in the greater Lafayette area. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, we're excited to have you.
Good.
So my first question is, could you just tell us a little bit more about Tippecanoe ACTS, how it started, and what your mission is?
Absolutely. May 24th, which is coming up soon, 1 year ago, is when we heard the horrible news of the children who were massacred in Uvalde, Texas. That was on a weekday. And I think that horror kind of stuck with everybody for a long time. And for me, when I went to our church service the very next Sunday, that was the topic on everybody's minds. And like so many other Americans, everybody's asking, we have to do something. Somebody has to do something. And so, interestingly, the topic of the church for that particular time was the book of Acts. Now, you don't have to know a lot about that to understand this, but in the book of Acts, the Apostle Paul is moving around the area trying to bring social justice to the people who were oppressed, and these are the times right after Christ. And he told his followers that you have to stand up, you have to take a position, you have to be brave, you have to move ahead if we're going to have change. So our pastor sort of preached on that in his lesson, and it was very, very powerful, and it touched the people, I think, very closely to their hearts. So after the service, I talked to him and I said, you know, this is really weighing on everybody. We have to do something, which is what everybody says. And so he said, what are you doing this Wednesday? And I said, well, nothing. And he said, well, why don't we meet at your house? And we'll invite as many people who care to come. Well, my living room and dining room were full that Wednesday, or that following, yeah, it was Wednesday. And after that initial kind of venting of how sad we were and how angry we were, that nothing was changing, and that children are dying like this constantly, we decided we're going to do something locally. And that's how Tippecanoe ACTS was born. And so it's not only the book of Acts, but that's what we're trying to do, is to act. You have to do something.
Awesome. That's a really cool and unique story.
Yeah, it is. And our mission has evolved. We've only been in existence 10 months, and you know, as much as we would like to, you can't go out there and just suddenly change everything. So it happens very slowly, baby steps, and the mission right now is heading towards helping our children in our community stay safe in all kinds of ways, with their schools, with their communities, and so forth. And that's going to be our focus, I think.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So one of your specific goals that kind of relates to topics in the news cycle today and topics that have been in the news cycle since this time last year is gun violence. So is there a specific way that your group would like to see change in that area, or are you still in those early stages?
Well, although we're in the early stages, I think we've come to some conclusions about what needs to happen. First of all, like the majority of Americans, we'd like to see a ban on assault weapons, and that is a fact. The majority, agree. And also, we'd like to see that the red flag laws exist throughout the country, not just in certain states, but everywhere. And the thing is, we have to have teeth behind those things. They have to be enforced. And we can't have, this police department and that one saying, oh, we don't think we can enforce that, or we're not going to. And that is happening in the states already who do have red flag laws. So there are a lot of controversies related to that. So those two things in particular. But then the other thing we need is funding from everywhere we can get it to support the social services that need to evolve and be in the communities to help people as much as they can, because typically we find that there's violence in areas where there is trouble with mental health, socioeconomic advantages or disadvantages. Is there affordable housing in the community? Is there daycare for workers who have children? How about support for the teachers in the schools? Are there funds to encourage young people to go into these professions? Because we don't have enough of them, especially in mental health. And so until we get those kinds of issues also on the table and really discussed, our efforts to curb the gun violence aren't going to go anywhere. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that definitely makes sense.
Yeah. So then two more important things, and these are the top two. This one from the top that we know we have to focus on is that we're going to have to find candidates who are sympathetic to these kinds of needs. There are an awful lot of people in office right now who are not, who are distracted by other forces acting upon them. So we have to actively go out and seek those candidates, vet them, find out what they can do for us, and then get behind them every way we possibly can. And then the number one thing is vote. We have to have people vote. And you know what? People of your generation had the least voter turnout, believe it or not. And so, one of our efforts that we're going to try to really push is try to get young people to vote too. And that's going to make or break what happens in the future. It really will.
Definitely.
That's our plan.
Yeah, that's a goal that we have on Watching Washington too,
Good.
is to try to get young people of all ages civically engaged.
Yes.
So they feel informed enough to vote and can vote on things that are important to them.
They do. So it's going to have to happen. Yeah.
So with the recent events in Nashville and in Louisville, has your group met since then and discussed how you feel or more ideas for moving forward?
Yeah, we have. Like everyone else, myself included, we're depressed, that this keeps happening. We're frustrated, we're angry. You sometimes feel like you're helpless, but we have to keep going somehow with all of this. And, we've been at this for 10 months, and it's a pretty weighty topic to have to carry and to constantly read about and talk about. Nobody wants to talk about gun violence, and especially the deaths of innocent children. But all of us have connections. You know, most everyone in our group is connected to Purdue and young people, or we have children, or we've been teachers. I wear these bracelets for my 2 grandsons who are 6 and 9, and that would be the most horrible thing to know that anything might happen to them. And so that's where we are. You know, what's really disturbing to me is that we had a meeting yesterday, and I got your questions right before the meeting, and I saw Louisville on there. I thought, Louisville, did I miss something? And that's horrible, that this is happening so often that you can't even keep up with it. You see what I'm saying there? And then at the same time, when we learned about Nashville, at our meeting 2 weeks before that, we not only had Nashville there, but locally we had a 5-year-old get a gun and kill his sibling here in our county because the gun was not safely secured. And that's what we're up against.
Yeah, as we've talked about, it can be really frustrating for people in groups like yours that it seems like nothing is getting done while you're putting in all of those efforts. And so do you have any thoughts on, even though these events keep happening, what is sticking our country on not being able to compromise, or do you see potential for compromise in the future?
That's a tough question, and it's also a loaded question because, you know, there are so many different facets of this argument, from First Amendment or Second Amendment rights to all kinds of personal freedoms and on and on and on. And I don't know. I hope so. I think the ticket is to just keep talking about it. We've tried to approach our local legislators at the state level, and we've had a little bit of support there. What's difficult is getting those who are not with us to join us. But through talking, we've made a little bit of progress, not a whole lot, but you have to keep doing it. And that I think is maybe where we're going to make a difference. And then, like I said a while ago, we're going to have to find the candidates, people who want to run for office, who will stand up for this.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So as we're looking at the future here and continuing to keep the conversation going, what are ways that Tippecanoe County residents or even Purdue students could get involved with your group?
Well, very easily. First of all, we do have a Facebook page, and it is just Tippecanoe ACTS. Just look that up. Also, we have an email that is tippecanoeacts@gmail.com. And if you'd like to be put on our mailing list for that, just send a little notification about that, and you can get all of the information as we push it out. So yeah, and then we also have from time to time public events that we announce on those social venues, and we invite people to attend. Look for us at fairs and festivals. We have booths and tables and things like that too.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you being here today. It's great to hear about your mission and what you're doing, and hopefully we can get some more people involved with this conversation.
Absolutely. We'd love to have Purdue students join us.
Awesome. Well, that's great to hear. Thank you again for being here.
You're welcome.
And thank you all for watching. This wraps up this week's episode of Watching Washington, and we'll see you next week.